Good gracious, there are a lot of books coming out in October. Let's jump into the indie reads coming our way in October 2024, because there are a lot. Hello everyone, welcome back to A Fictional Escapist. My name is Chris, and today's video is going to hurt my wallet or my Kindle Unlimited, as it always does, but I'm always very excited by these lists. And we have a new player in the blog article game who brings us these wonderful indie reads coming to us each and every year. Now, I do apologize, you're going to see the ring light in my glasses, but I just had my eyes redone or retested, and I really should be using them to read off the screen. So when we have a lot of text like this, we're just going to have to deal with the glare from the ring light that comes our way. But like I said, before we jump into this, I want to shout out AJ Kelvin's website, who has now also included a indie or self-pub release, including the horror genre, which is really cool. So we've got two places where you can go ahead and put your books if you've got something coming out in the coming months. So we'll have Rob J. Hayes, which is the regular. So he always puts out a list of indie releases coming our way each and every month, so I'll have that one link down below. And also AJ Calvin, her website also has a link for those, which is really cool. So they'll both be down below. Also down below will be links to my social media and Discord, all that stuff. If you want to come along for the ride, you're more than welcome to. But this is a big list, so let's jump into the indie releases coming our way in October 2024. On the 1st of October, we have Tournament Top Decker, which is book 2 in the Card Mage series by Benedict Patrick, and this is cultivation fantasy based on card games. I really need to read the first book, which I've had since it came out, and now book 2 is out, which tells me that I am now behind, which really isn't anything new for me getting into series, but book 2 is out, and if you liked Card Mage, the first book, then hopefully you've picked this one up and had a good time. Also, on the 1st of October, we have Glyph and Glaive by Stephen James Taylor, and this is epic fantasy. It says, Jonathan Ten Swords, Terraso, again, I just can't pronounce anything, is a war hero. She's also on the run as the chief suspect in the murder of several of her own soldiers. In a desperate effort to clear her name and rally her fractured city against new enemies, Jonathan hunts for the elusive Onyx Order, a group of mages ostensibly, got it, concealed by the very city she is sworn to protect. I love this cover. I love the yellows. I don't love that the font isn't center, but that's on me. And like the pop of the red flags, it just works. Also, on October the 1st, we have Forsworn. This is the Forsworn Oath Book 1 by David Estes. This is epic fantasy, and this cover just pops here. It says, do not fear the shadows, but what lives inside them. When Ludovica was only 8 years old, he lost his twin brother and his eye when a horrific fire turned his village to ash. The last thing he remembers is a dark figure wreathed in flames, stalking towards his childhood home. His brother, Gato, was still inside. Then came the explosion, the burning pain where his eye should have been, followed by blessed oblivion. The man deemed responsible for it all was Canaan, a dark sorcerer known as the Fire Eater, who was brought to justice and imprisoned in the legendary fortress known as Commandeur. In the 2 decades that have passed since that fateful night, Ludo's every waking moment has been focused on the only thing that he has left to live for: revenge. So when the Fire Eater escapes, Ludo is determined to hunt him down and avenge his brother's death, a path that leads him into the shadows and mysteries of Lostwood. What awaits him in the shadows will change everything. That sounds really cool. Also on the 1st of October, we have Blood Prince, Princes Asked and Paid, cool series name, by Nicole Evans, and this is also epic fantasy. The law of the gods is those who kill must pay for it in blood. In the land of Armadin, where 9 clans exist in a fragile peace, Ashield is one of the few chosen to pay the blood price. Through it, she becomes a warrior, capable of killing to protect her clan, alongside her hunters, who provide the essential animal sacrifice, lest they become the next clan to suffer the gods' wrath. When an attack wipes out their few remaining hunters, Ashield must find a way to protect her clan and still appease the gods, despite her shaken faith. But when her monthly bleeding stops, she can no longer kill. Cast out by the gods' decree, she's given a single task: travel to the gods' realm, atoning for the failures of the clan and herself alike. If she dies, another will be sent in her place, until the demanded atonement is fulfilled or her clan is wiped out entirely. Bound by a promise to protect her people above all else, Ashield embarks on a quest driven for answers. Aided by only a pair of animals and a small child she meets along the way, Ashield must battle the elements, her pursuers, and her own mind to reach the god's realm. To save her people, Ashield's journey forces her to answer the ultimate, is she willing to pay the price, asked of her, now that she can no longer pay in blood. On the 2nd of October, we have A Distortion of Fate by M.J. Lindsay, and this is sci fantasy. I really love the pops of purple in this cover here. It says, words are cheap, blood is treasure, redemption is everything. Calvarus Curtame learned a brutal lesson beneath the blade of his childhood hero. Ambitious men do anything, sacrifice anyone, to rise. 14 years later, Calvar has embraced the martyrdom as a means of redemption to those he was forced to leave behind. But first, he'll have to break a monopoly on magical technology, evade a capture worse than death, and dethrone a dictator, all without succumbing to the insatiable bloodlust of his mind Jinn. Amidst the chaos of failed plans and the search for answers, a forbidden act of compassion entwines Calvar's path with Raimi, a refugee with unthinkable powers, no control over them, and a total thing for him. He tries to claw back control over his failing redemption. Calvar plunges into a conspiracy far deeper than he imagined, while rekindling a hope for revolution without war. At a crossroads of duty and destiny, he faces down the harrowing decision he never thought he'd make, choosing to stay alive. On the 4th of October, and a lovely green cover, because you know I love a green cover, is Rubbles of Magrath. This is the Universe book number 5 by Natalie Kelder, and this is sci fantasy. I don't want to read too much into this one selfishly. This is a series I would like to read, starting with the first duology, but have a look at this gorgeous cover up on the screen over here. Also, on the 4th of October, we have Falling into Oblivion by Aaron M. Payne. This is the Tendrils of Chrome, book number 1, in the cyberpunk genre, which is a very underrated genre, in my opinion, since modifications come at a price. Detective Sol Harkness is tangled in the wires of a deadly conspiracy involving defective body modifications causing permanent brain damage. A suspect is known, but something more dangerous may be lurking in the shadows. A city plagued by waste, violence fills the streets. Oblivion is within reach. That sounds very cool. I can't wait to read this one. I got it on release day to my Kindle, and I'm hoping to get to it sooner rather than later. On the 6th of October, we have Court of Lies and Cinder by Autumn Kafur. This is the Stolen Royalty Series Book 2, and I hope I got that name pronunciation at least somewhat correct. And this is romantic fantasy, a fairy tale retelling, and also paranormal fantasy, if you're looking to the subgenres that one falls into, but it is a book 2, so we will need to move on. On the 7th of October, we have yet another entry by the master of these lists, Tao Wong. That is Magic Kingdom at War, book number 6 by Tao Wong, as I said. And this is part of the literary RPG. This is part of Tao Wong's pledge to take over these lists and potentially the world by being on them each and every month. But it is book 6, so we will have to move on. On the 7th of October, we have The Wishing Stone, the Chronicles of Gam, book number 2. I have to read the first book. It's like been on my list since it came out. It sounds incredible. This is epic fantasy, cozy fantasy, necromancers, like grannies. Like I need to get to Gam at some point. That's the cover. It is a book 2, so we will have to shuffle along. On the 8th of October, we have Head of the Class. This is Systems Apocalypse, another Systems Apocalypse series, book number 1. This is a Systems Apocalypse. This is Systems Apocalypse Liberty, book number 1. So it is another entry into the multiverse of Systems Apocalypse, and this is literary RPG by Tao Wong and also Jason J. Willis. Standardized testing is so much worse in the apocalypse. Caleb Hansen assumed the most exciting part of his field trip scouting in northern Minnesota would be a rare bird sighting. Instead, he was abducted by hive-minded hexapods and forced to be their children's teacher. Not the worst way to ride out the end of the world. 2 years later, the apocalypse has finally come for Caleb. His savior captors are murdered, leaving him as the last line of defense for the alien kids he's grown to know and love. Now he'll have to bend his values or watch his students die, all while dealing with untrustworthy allies, ravenous monsters, honorable bounty hunters, and worst of all, xenophobic militants. Between idealism and practicality, lies hope for the future if you can find the strength to pass the final test. You know what, I might give that one a go if I get back into the System Apocalypse, because that sounds like a heck of a lot of fun. Also on the 8th of October, we have the Vessel's Blood. This is the pronunciation. Come on, Chris, we got this. Bellerathims Branches, book number 1, by Joseph Gorn. I have no idea if I pronounced that correctly. I'm guessing not. But this is epic fantasy and romance. It says, Volfari's life is not his own. The vessel, the great hope of the Vandrin people, his is the body through which their lord Valandestrus might return to the world and bring with him promised salvation, and so too the role with which Volfari has been tasked since birth, the sole purpose of his existence. He's long accepted it. He was ready. However, on the eve of his 20th birthday, the day that should have been his last, tragedy befalls the temple he'd spent his entire life caged within. Now, for the first time, he is thrust out into the world, alone, broken, and fleeing for his life. It's then that he finds an unlikely ally in Kael, the son of the man who betrayed and nearly killed him. Together, they set off, Volfari searching for the means to fulfill his duty and mend the wound torn from his people's faith, Kael seeking penance for his father's deeds, and both falling prey to the feelings doomed by the journey's end. Also on October 8th, we have Cazorra's Curse. This is by Jonathan Neves Mayers. This is a sci-fantasy novella set in the same world as Vevensong, and I am very much looking forward to reading it. Curse, Collapse, Prelude. Across the 4 realms of Arzadel, the Veven live in peace, after the decimation of a group of assassins who had endeavoured to end the lives of those who were not pure. But the line of clawed wings was never fully destroyed. Cazorra, a Veven struck by a tragic event, strives to put a final stop to the line. Levi, whose parents belong to the group, realizes that her purpose aligns with Cazorra's. Together, they discover that there are battles to be fought, relationships to be formed, and secrets to be manipulated in the world and beyond. In their world and beyond. I'm looking forward to reading this one. I really like Vevensongs a lot, so we'll be picking that one up as soon as I possibly can. On the 10th of October, we have A Sharper, More Lasting Pain by Alex Harvey Rivias, and this is a dark fantasy / dark academia tale. After their girlfriend's best friend is wounded in a monster attack, Simone Allard stumbles across a plot much deeper than they anticipated. As they work to find a cure to their own forming illness and find out the truth, one question remains. How is Nadia involved in this? Nadia DuPont doesn't know how much time she has or even what is ailing her, but it all gets more complex after meeting Simone on a field trip. As they both work to find a cure to her ailment, all Nadia is certain of is she's on the path to ruin. That doesn't sound like a lot of fun for either of them. On the 12th of October, we have Something Wicked by Belinda Campbell, and this is urban fantasy, YA / cozy fantasy. I get those vibes from this cover. It's quite beautiful, and I'm getting cozy vibes. Hadley Manor was quiet, but it was very much awake. Daryl Hadley has always been kept in the dark about her family history, so when she moves to her estranged and recently deceased grandma's countryside manor, she takes it as an opportunity to find out more about where she came from. But Daryl soon discovers her family has a reputation, and that everyone thinks her grandma murdered her own twin sister almost 50 years ago. Oh, Granny. After befriending her new neighbour, Todd Griffin, the pair team up to uncover the truth about what actually happened to her grandma's sister. Things take a wicked turn when, on the night of a storm, Daryl wakes up to the dormant magic inside of her. Magic she didn't know she possessed, and resurrects her grandma in the process. Oh dear. Daryl is forced to come face to face with her past, quite literally. Not only has her magic brought back the dead, but it has also awoken a dark force that is hungry for revenge on the Hadley family. Daryl must learn to use her magic to protect herself and the one she cares about before they are caught up in a battle between past and present. Also on October 12th, we have the inside story of the British Bureau for the Arcane. This is the Dark Elf Dynasty file by Phil Parker, and this has already intrigued me. The British Bureau for the Arcane has kept people safe for centuries from the arcane species that seek to harm human beings. Their range extends to the Commonwealth nations that were part of the British Empire. A once proud part of the British Secret Service, their success in controlling the arcane races has been their downfall. These beings now live on the edge of survival in remote parts of Britain, or at least they did. For Arlo Austin, a loyal but troubled agent for the Bureau, something is wrong when he's sent to protect the citizens of the Shetland Isles from rampaging Norwegian trolls. It soon becomes apparent it was an attempt on his life. When another agent dies in mysterious circumstances and Arlo is warned of an impending war with arcane species, his instincts are proved right. But who is behind this rebellion? Could it be linked to Arlo's own bloodline as a Dark Elf? His traumatic childhood holds secrets, ones that are going to test his loyalty to the Bureau. In their cells, another Dark Elf is held prisoner, one who is so despised by its staff their hatred has extended to Arlo. This species is violent and vengeful. Can they recruit one of their own to bring about the destruction of the Bureau, and in doing so enable the arcane races to wage war against the human race? That sounds like a complicated bureau to be a part of. On October 14th, we have A Kingdom of Earth and Devotion. This is Portals of Science and Magic #2 by Liz Kane. It's urban fantasy, sci-fantasy with a little bit of romance touched in. And this cover is doing it for me. On the 15th of October, we have Where Golden Feathers Fall. This is the Zemkoska Chronicles by Helen Reig Pedersen. And I don't know if I should read this one out because it is linked to the second book, Where Golden Feathers Fall. We'll read out a little bit of it, just as a bit of a teaser, because I believe they can all sort of be read as standalones. The enemy are at the gates, and the heir must be protected at all cost. The only problem is, she has vanished. Princess Algaya Dominov's world is turned upside down when she discovers she may not be the daughter of the Dryads she's always believed herself to be. As she ponders her possible new identity, enemy forces from the north reach the border, and conscription is enacted, calling on one able-bodied person from each family to fight, except for her own. Algia, I probably pronounced it wrong, sorry Helen, flees the safety of the palace to join her subjects at war. However, life in a military camp isn't like the one she is used to, and it is only her stubborn determination to protect her people and be worthy of the crown she will one day bear that keeps her from shedding her hidden identity. This is another romantasy. It is a Mulan retelling, if that is something that you're interested in. I was the alpha reader, or one of the alpha readers on this particular book. And again, gorgeous cover. The series just has beautiful, beautiful covers. Also on the 15th of October, we have Blood Rush. This is a re-release of the Starlit Scar by Bengali. This is steampunk, historical fantasy, crossed with Weird West. In the wild frontier town of Fell Falls, there dwells only death, dust, and secrets. I read that in the wrong order, but those are the words. When Prime Lord Hark is murdered, his orphan son Merian finds his opulent world stripped away. His father's final wishes force Merian west across the Iron Ocean to live with an art he never knew existed, to the endless lands and the very brink of the known world, to a place they call Fell Falls, Wyoming. As Merian struggles with his new life with Aunt Lillian, the town's undertaker, he vows to find a way home to London and catch his father's killer. Merian has one ally to help him stay alive and unravel the mystery, the fairy warrior Rin, a hunted outcast of the Fey realm. Rin's dark past can finally be forgotten in the Endless Lands, or so he thinks. Revenge and redemption are never easy. They are dark forces at work in Fell Falls, and not merely the Rel wraiths or the encroaching wilderness. The arrival of fellow Empire heir Khalid Serped threatens to lead him astray, and Lillian is hiding a secret that lurks in the Hark bloodline, a secret that will open up a world of magic buried by empire and industry. Also on the 15th of October, we have The Visionary. This is the Duke Aero Trilogy, Book 1 by Matt Sparrow. We are only halfway through the month, team. That is how many books are being released in October. In totalitarian socialist society, the idealist stands against brutal politics and secret deals. One against all, the fight you cannot win, because there is no place for an individual. Renias is forced to follow his family's path of the Duke, not like it is a big deal. Every member of the party is a duke. This title long lost its original meaning. Nobody cares, as nobody learns. Progress is forbidden. People in power openly break the law and face no consequences. Government meetings being used to judge political opponents, and the courtroom being used to forge new laws. They are afraid of losing power, so they suppress the intellectual elite. The knowledge makes magic more powerful. That's why. That sounds interesting, particularly in the world that we currently live in, and seeing these sorts of things happen in our world. Also on October 15th, which was a huge day for book releases, we have Corruption's Claw by Emma L. Adams, and this is Death's Disciple, book number 3. In Laria, the truth cuts as sharp as a blade. As a book 3, I can't read too much more, but the cover looks like this. Also, on October 15th, we have Death of a Mad Dragon by Alex Valdez. There's something about this cover, and I don't know whether it's like the 80s sort of pink situation with the riding the dragon. I don't know, but I dig it. There are good dragons and bad dragons, and then there are mad dragons. The Rayok gang goes on a wild dragon chase. A horde of dragons crushed the Rayok gang's plans to rob a space cruise liner. In the heat of the battle between humans and dragons, the Rayok gang vouches for the losing side, the dragons. They end up crashing on a desertic planet ruled by the dragon lord named Ezamil. In their attempt to escape the planet, the Rayok gang soon finds out that an army of wizards has chained Ezamil and are using its blood to craft incredible spells. With the dragon under their control, the wizards are pillaging and destroying every town in sight. The Rayok gang has one last dragon to save before they can leave this planet. That sounds pretty cool. Pretty cool, I'm not going to lie. Also on the 15th of October, and the last one for the 15th of October, maybe my cover pick for this month, and that is DreadKing by David Liberto. And this is Blue Steel book, the Blue Steel series, book number 2. This is epic/high fantasy. I don't know, team, I don't know what to tell you. Just green covers, big scary thing on the throne, got the swords out. I'm here for it, but it is a book 2. On the 16th of October, we have Claws of the Collector by Douglas Lumsden, apologies. This is Shade the Collector, book number 1, and it falls into urban fantasy. And there are a lot of cats on the bottom of this book. Claws, blades, guns, and fire. Benedict Shade, a werecat and collector of exotic, potentially lethal magic artifacts, arrives in Yerba City with his good buddy Dwayne to collect, some would say steal, an unusual dagger that is much more than it seems. Little does Shade realize that the dagger was involved in an assassination attempt with dire consequences. To keep the dagger, Shade will have to navigate his way through secret hit squads, a homicidal troll, a trickster god, a fire demon, a sorceress goat, and the most powerful witch in Western Talencia, and law enforcement agencies from 2 different realms, not to mention a dragon or 2. But success for Shade and Dwayne could lead to a devastating inter-realm war. That sounds great. Not like the inter-realm war bit, but I'm invested in what is happening there. On the 16th of October, we have The Waking Storm and Flame, The Fates of Aten, book number 1 by N.A. Betts, and this is epic fantasy. Destined by blood, bound by duty, and racing against time, the Forgotten must unite to defy an empire and prepare for a judgment that could end them all. That sounds intense. That does sound intense. On October 16th, we have The Rarkyn's Fall by Nikki Lee. This is the Rarkyn trilogy, book number 2, and another really eye-catching cover that we have here. It's epic fantasy, sword and sorcery, and it is a book 2. On the 17th of October, we move on to The Forging of Volund. This is the Ragnarok Prophecy, book number 3 by Matt Larkin, who has also released many a book this year. This is epic fantasy, grimdark, and historical fantasy, but we do not want spoilers, so we will need to move on from there. On the 18th of October, we have Dealer's Halloween. This is Dealer's Choice 1.5 by Liz Kane. It is urban fantasy and sword and sorcery. Is that a motorbike behind her? That looks like a pretty sick motorbike. But I don't have a blurb for that one, so we will need to move on. On the 18th of October, we have Immolation Volume 1 by S.D. Destrefo. I've probably butchered that, and I apologize. This is gothic, horror, and fantasy. It's another blustery summer in Windermere. Remote, fanatical, and superstitious, the Holy City is held tight in a vice-like grip of a centuries-long vampire panic. The local Archbishop Cyril has devoted his life to snuffing out this sacrilegious source of Windermere's woes. Not content with spitting in the face of death, the vampires too bewitch the living. Blood that is euphoric and addictive in equal measure flows like liquor down the throats of the bold and the foolish. With every addict, the vampires' hold over the city tightens. Sinners will always return to their ways. A priest knows this best of all, and so Cyril knows this threat must be extinguished at the source. But for all his conviction, there is one vampire Cyril knows he cannot unmake, not with faith, not fire, nor fury. A novice of his own order named Bronte. A mistake, an anomaly, she shouldn't have been born at all, and though Cyril had scoured and searched the scriptures, he found no answer. It's all he can do to keep this heretical secret at all costs. Beset by doubt from both within and without the cathedral walls, Cyril must struggle to retain his political influence over a fractured city, religious control over his suspicious, faithful, and spiritual control over his own. His own supposedly unbending faith. And has well-kept secrets threatened to crawl into the light, Cyril must either find answers or write them himself. Interesting. On the 19th of October, we have the Envoys of War by Dave Lawson. This is epic fantasy crossed with sword and sorcery, and it says, don't kill the messengers. As a bodyguard for the king's envoys, Jen, I'm guessing, is content with her life of traveling, drinking wine, and hitting things with her sword. Yeah, it sounds pretty cool. It's a perfect job, until the king sends her and her friend Coyden into war-torn enemy territory on a mission to deliver vital military intelligence to an allied nation. The problem? The mission is a sham. Jen is tasked with determining if Coyden is a spy who is selling information to the enemy. Coyden is the worst kind of libertine, a brash, arrogant, and on the run from half the husbands in the kingdom, but Jen can't imagine him betraying her or their nation. With obtuse bandits, vengeful mages, and a resolute lootist, they embark on a daring rescue mission, complicated by Gordon's increasingly complex schemes. An ominous enemy plots surface. Say that 10 times fast. Jen and Coyden must decide what matters most, their nations or their friends. Also on October 19th, we have Theoretical Magick. This is the Floodmouth Files by T.M. Baumgartner. Apologies about the pronunciation, and this is urban fantasy. Floodmouth, home of vampires, mages, reliable public transportation, and student loans. For Jen Perkins, a non-mage human with a PhD in magic theory, working as an evidence technician for the Federal Bureau of Magic Enforcement, provides a much-needed paycheck. Sure, the petty politics are irritating, but at least she doesn't have to deal with the vampire agent upstairs. Yeah, fair enough. Until she gets paired up with one of those vampires to help him execute search warrants. Special Agent Simon Bowers expects an experienced entry team specialist, not an evidence tech who took some online training. But dealing with anti-vampire wards turns out to be a lot more complicated than expected. Suddenly, Jen is in the middle of a case involving dead vampires, strange magic, and a secret someone is willing to kill to protect. On the 22nd of October, we have Drown Deep by Phil Williams. This is epic fantasy and grimdark, and the second installment of the Blood Scouts. I really want to read the first book of this series, and I haven't yet. It says, where armies won't go, the Blood Scouts must. But it is a book 2. Also on the 22nd of October, we have Fall Sacred Apple by Emery Glass, and this is horror fantasy. The 30 Years' War meets vampire nuns in blood magic with a side of eldritch botanical horror. Color me intrigued to that entire description of this book. For the first time in 24 years, a half-divine, half-mortal child is born at Magick Abbey. I probably butchered that. For Corba and her fellow Sangrean living, there is an ardent warrior monk of the Blood Mother. It is a sign that she has given consent to punish the heretical senators who threaten the stability of her orchard. But for the blasphemer amongst them, it is a sign of her certain downfall, and the widow Einad is most thankful for the chance to help her orchard burn. I probably butchered all of that, and I apologize. On the 25th of October, we have Shadows of a Lost Hollow by Corey Ratcliffe. This is epic fantasy and grimdark. This is the Elmirian Chronicles. But the old gods above and below see through this storm, see us through this storm even. Standing on the precipice of an untamed land, Thast Orlok dreams of helping forge a new kingdom for his tribe, his beloved, and for his son. But as the horizon darkens with the approach of orcs, the fragile foundations of their new home are imperiled. Faced with the threat of annihilation, Tharg must dig deep within himself, reigniting the warrior's flame within that has long defined his people, and lead them back to the heart of the battle. Their future, their legacy, and everything they have strived to build hangs in the balance. Also on the 25th of October, we have Chaos Undone by S.D. Simper, and this is the Fallen Gods book number 6, which is dark romance and fantasy horror. What was a monster without monstrosities? Good question, philosophical question to ponder, but it is a book 6, so we will need to move on from there. On the 28th of October, we have Of Lightning and Silver by Julian Munich, and this is romantic fantasy / gaslit fantasy. It says, in 1810, England's Mage Society, Miss Phoebe Eaton begins her training as a vampire hunter. Phoebe's lightning magic is valuable, but her caring nature is hardly the trait of a fighter. Her sparking fingers tend to set off accidental fires more often than not. Constable Jacob Webber saves Phoebe's life during an ill-fated hunt that claims a colleague. After Jacob goes missing, Phoebe witnesses a brutal mass assassination at the hands of a newly sired vampire. Determined to find answers, she embarks on a mission with her team. She is soon captured and held inside an elegant mansion lair, where she finds Jacob imprisoned as a blood slave. A trio of bat-shifting vamps feast upon the two of them, while mage henchmen keep them trapped with cruel magic. Phoebe must use her powers and wits to escape, reunite with her team, defeat her fanged enemies, and save the man who claimed her heart. What a complicated love story. On the 29th of October, we have the Reanimator's Remains by Kara Jorgensen, and this is the Reanimator Mysteries book number 3, and is historical fantasy / paranormal romance, an autistic necromancer, his undead love, and a covenant that must be broken. I'm pretty intrigued by that byline, I'm not going to lie. So I might be looking up the series as soon as this video has been filmed. Also on the 29th of October, we have The Curse of the Soulwalker, and this also was a contender for my favorite cover because it is epic. And this is epic fantasy written by Sharon Elwood. Doomgrey, commander of the Undead Curse Legion, has led it in it, terrorizing and spilling blood throughout the kingdom of Narmval. When Zarel, a powerful young sorcerer, lifts the curse, Doomgrey and her army must learn to live among the very people they oppressed. But the curse never forgets its servants. While she struggles with her newfound mortality and haunting visions, Silnus, a dark figure from the past, returns. Doomgrey must prevent him from harnessing the curse, or else she'll be cursed again and forced to destroy the people she's learning to love, obliterating the last remnants of her humanity in the process. To save her people and this new world she misunderstands, Doomgrey and Zarel are commanded to search for new allies in the coming war. This journey throughout Narmval will reveal hidden motives and a secret that could unravel both Zarel's country and Doomgrey's identity. That is a really cool cover. Also a very nice cover, we have The Wilderlands by R.E. Bellsmith, and this is epic fantasy / grimdark, and I really like the skull down the bottom of this tree. I just think it's neat. This story begins, as all things do, in fire. Ain't that the truth in this genre? We'll just let the dog finish what it's doing. Soot and sparrow plague the air when a horde of wilderfolk fall upon a caravan. Running at the head of that horde is Nuck, a man hardened by battle and the horrors of the Wilderlands. I probably pronounced that incorrectly, I apologize. The screams that rise from the caravan come from Valforians who hide behind the walls of their 5 cities, who carry things rare and precious, things of want and need for the wilderfolk who live in every growing green of the world. In their attack, Nulk and his clan find a Valforian man, all in red and blade bloodied, who can hold his own against wilderfolk. This man in red protects a boy who cannot speak, and a girl, Dorena, with more spite than sense. Once Nulk manages to best the man in red, the fate of Red and his wards lies with Nulk. Through the twisting of fate and the sinister bend of circumstance, Nulk decides to form a ramshackle alliance with the Valforians to bring them back to their city. What lies between are monsters, gods, and the very Wilderlands. The wild places of the world are ever growing and creeping closer. It sounds creepy. It sounds grimdark. I like the cover. interested. On the 30th of October, we have Keeper's Prophecy by Eliza Leone, or Leone. Apologies for the pronunciation. This is urban fantasy and romantic fantasy, and is a book 3, so we will need to move on. We then have Haunted Magick by Lillian Brooks. Also, well, this one's on October 31st, sorry. This is the Whitby Witches book number 6. And this is urban fantasy, a bit of urban fantasy coming our way this month. And finally, we have The Dregs, Vermin of Old Empire by Thomas J. Devons. And this is also epic fantasy and grimdark, which looks to be coming our way on the 31st of October. The lords have fallen, but ever shall there be those that vie for power, those that seek opportunity in death. Prince Ivar's body burned, one more corpse upon the pyre, one more casualty on the battle of Torglen. His brother Vlayan makes claim for the throne and control of Volsk's land. I butchered all of that. Willock awakes amid the chaos, broken and bloodied. Hope has died. Willock is dying. Another of the lost. A vagrant in a war-torn land. One more wandering husk in need of a friend and a purpose. A young sorcerer seeks to prove himself. A jaded guard loses purpose. A motley band marches for vengeance. As the kingdoms burn, the survivors of war claw their way from the mud, seeking purpose, seeking direction, seeking their place, no longer beneath the heel of their rulers. Wowee, that was a lot of books. We are currently at 42 minutes of filming on this. We've heard dog noises. It's all been happening. October is an insane month, and we also do have 2 blogs to go ahead and check our new releases from. If you are interested in either of those blogs, do make sure to check out the description box down below. If you like the video, give it one of those. If you want to see more of it, click subscribe at your will, and I will catch you in the next video. I'm gonna go drink some water now. Okay. Bye. Ciao.